Hey, what's up, Group B students? Welcome to today, Wednesday, 10/7, 2020. Sorry I couldn't be here today. I had a family emergency, a funeral that I needed to attend. So I'll be back on Thursday in class, but I want to make sure that we don't fall behind. So I want to get into our notes and continue on those. But before we start the notes, I want to give you a little overview. If you look up at the board, you'll see that you have 2 quick writes that you need to do. Try and answer those the best you can at the beginning of class before you watch the lecture. And then we will go over these tomorrow. So write down the question, put your answer, think about it, use your notes to help you answer these. And then we'll go over these tomorrow along with another quick write, okay, in class. Watch your video lecture on Canvas. You guys will find it in the announcements section. You'll have to go to my YouTube page to look at it. Once you get done watching this video lecture, there's probably going to be 2 parts to it, probably about 25 total minutes. You guys can work on your reading questions and vocab. Make sure you're getting part 2 of your vocab done, and then we will move on to reading questions after that. All right? So go ahead and get out your notes for Chapter 9, A Dividing Nation, and we'll pick up where we left off last week. So you can pause it if you need to while you get out your notes, but I'm going to continue on. So we stopped right after we talked about John Brown and the raid on Harper's Ferry. So remember, John Brown was that martyr that was trying to fight for a cause, and he was really trying to help the Northerners stop the spread of slavery. So if you go all the way back to the Kansas-Nebraska Act, he was the one that was a free soiler that was going and he was fighting and he was killing the border ruffians from Missouri. So today we're picking it up with the election of 1860. And how that splits our nation. So in 1860, this election is different than any other election we've ever had. There are 4 candidates that are running, okay? And what's interesting about that is usually we have a lot of candidates, but these are 4 real candidates that are all going to get electoral college votes. The Democratic Party splits, and it splits between the Northern Democrats and the Southern Democrats. The Northern Democrats choose Stephen Douglas, a representative out of Illinois, to be the Northern Democrat. His view on slavery is a Northern moderate. He's okay with it in the South, but he doesn't want it to spread to the North or to any new territories. And then the Southern Democrat is known as John Breckinridge. He's from Kentucky. The difference with John Breckinridge is he takes a Southern moderate view where he says we need slavery. We need it for our agricultural production. We need it in our fields, and we need it so we can continue to produce. All right? What's going to happen to the Democratic vote in the South and the North is it's going to split between those 2 candidates. So we know that the Democratic choice will not win because of this. Then we have a 3rd candidate from the Constitutional Party. His name's John Bell from Tennessee. He wins those middle states because he's going to follow what the Constitution has to say on slavery, which is their property and the 3/5 compromise. Okay, so that's his stance when it comes to the slave issue. Then you have the Republican Party, this new party that's created by the abolitionists. Obviously, abolitionists believe in abolishing slavery. They're going to nominate Abraham Lincoln. He opposed slavery, all right? Lincoln's going to win the election. Obviously, you guys know, President Lincoln. So he's going to win this election by only getting 40% of the vote. And he's not even on the ballot in most southern states. He has so much success in the North, and he wins the big cities in the North. States like New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio. Just by winning those states with all their big cities, he has more popular vote and more electoral college votes than any other candidate, which you're going to see here in a second on the map. With this victory by the Republicans, the Southern Democrats get scared, and this led to the idea of secession, of them leaving the United States, because they know what the Republicans want, and that is to abolish slavery. All right? So go ahead and click on the next slide or move on. The next slide you'll see has all 4 candidates starting on your left. You have Abraham Lincoln, just without the top hat. You have Stephen Douglas, the Northern Democrat. You then have John Bell, the Constitutionalist, and then John Breckinridge, the Southern Democrat. Okay? Now flip to the next slide. You should see a map on the next side. This map is the Electoral College map. Now, what's interesting is you can see a clear divide in our country. The orange states are the states that voted for the Republicans. look what their border is. It's the Ohio River, the original border when it came to free enslaved states. Everything north of it, which has traditionally been free, votes for the Republican, for Lincoln. Then you look at the South, the yellow, that's Breckinridge, the Southern Democrats. There's necessary evil. The people who rely on agriculture and rely on slavery, they need to have it. And those are the states that are going to separate to create the war. Douglas only wins one state, Missouri, and then you have Bell, the Constitutionalist, one in Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. So right there in the middle. They can go either way. Some of them are going to go more north and believe that slavery should cease to exist. You're going to have some that are going to go more south and believe that is a necessary evil. Okay? So let's moving on. Click on the next slide. And this slide is all about secession. All right? What is secession? Secession means to separate. All right? So it's where we separate as a country. On December 20th, 1860, South Carolina seceded from the Union. They formally announced that they are leaving the United States. So imagine just like a black hole right there. Like we don't recognize South Carolina anymore. It goes North Carolina, Georgia. They are no longer part of us. We have a hole that is etched out in our country. But they won't be the only southern state. Over the next few weeks, 6 southern states follow suit because they're all afraid of the Republicans abolishing slavery. So they're going to get out before that could ever happen. These states end up forming what is known as the Confederate States of America. If you think of a confederation, you're like, man, I've heard that before. You're absolutely right, you have. You heard of that with Ben Franklin. He proposed a confederation way back during the Revolution when we were afraid of the British and we wanted all the colonies to come together for an alliance. That's all it is. Every state is still separate in the South, but if one state is invaded, then the rest of the states will come and help them militarily. Jefferson Davis is named the president of the Confederate States of America. The first capital is actually in Montgomery, Alabama, and then it moves further north to Richmond, Virginia. Lincoln said secession was unconstitutional, and he did not intend to interfere with any type of slavery. So he wants them to stay part of the Union. He's doing that to try and bring them back in, and then once he eases everything over, he can pass an amendment to abolish slavery. On April 12th, 1861, Fort Sumter, South Carolina was fired on by the South Carolina militia. It was occupied by the U.S. Army. The Civil War had begun with this action. The South has attacked the North, and the North is under invasion by the Confederate States of America. This is what your primary source packet was on. If you haven't completed that, continue to work on it. It'll be due Thursday at the beginning of class, okay? So go ahead and hold on to that for me. Any questions you have over Chapter 9, please write down and remember, and we'll go over these at the beginning of class tomorrow, all right? But go ahead, put away your Chapter 9 notes, and let's get our Chapter 10 notes, and let's dive into the Civil War a little bit, okay? So, Chapter 10 is all about the Civil War. And we're going to talk about the battles itself, the lead up, and then the conclusion. So the first slide we have is talking about the advantages of the Union and the Confederacy. When I talk about the Union, I'm talking about the North, or the Yankees. When I talk about the South, I'm talking about the Confederacy, or the rebels. In the North, they have way more advantages. They have twice as many people as the South. They have a more diverse economy, which means they're not reliant on just one thing. The South is reliant on agriculture, and that's it. The North has agriculture, but it also has industry. It has factories, okay? Which leads us to our next thing, factories. They can produce more, whether that's weapons, ammunition, cannons, all right, ships. We have a railroad system which connects us in the North, and we can get troops from point A to point B really quickly. And we have a naval force. Because you got to think, the North is the United States Army and the United States Navy. So we use both of those to our advantage. We don't have to grow a military. We already have it. Now we're going to have to replace some people, especially those people that are in charge of our military. In the South, they do have some advantages. And those are kind of like our Revolutionary War advantages. They're fighting a defensive war, which means all the battles are going to take place in the South, besides 2, all right? Military leaders. They have some of the best military leaders. People like Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson and Jeb Pickett. These are guys that graduated top of their class at West Point. and they're going to go on back home and fight for their home state. So we are at a disadvantage when it comes to military tactics. And 3, they want to outlast the Union. They're fighting for a cause. They're fighting to keep slavery. Right now, the Union doesn't have a cause. That'll come later on when they start fighting to end slavery in the Emancipation Proclamation. But we're not there yet, so just hold on. Go ahead and flip to the next slide. You should see a chart on that slide. Look at this chart, and I just want you to jot down some observations. You look at it, and you have the Union in the light gray, the Confederacy in the dark bars. And what you notice is an overwhelming majority of everything on this graph is for the Union, besides a few. One is exports. Exports are very close because the South trades a lot with Great Britain. So that's going to be crucial because they want them to get involved in the war and to help them out. All right? The other thing that's kind of close is number of farms. You would think the North has more farms. How can that be? The South's all about agriculture. Well, they are about agriculture, but they have large plantations. So they may not have the number of farms, but they probably have more farm acreage. Okay? But the big keys, if you look at population, you look at production of goods, you look at iron, everything you use in a war, the North has a huge lead and a huge advantage on the South. And that's really going to hurt them later on. Now, I want you to hold on a second because I'm not quite through the notes, but I want you to click on the link for part 2 of my video lecture. And I got about 4 more slides I'm going to go through. So go ahead, stop here, maybe take a breather, fill out some reading questions, and then get on part 2 of our video lecture, or jump right to part 2 and keep going. All right? I'll see you in a second.